I'm a broken record.
Ladies, thank you so much for tuning into the Lipstick Goblin station. I feel so honored to have you all here with me yet again. I want to start off by saying thank you to all of the ladies that tried to view our video today and notified me that the video was pulled. We did have technical difficulties at first, some copyright issues, but once we took care of them and we reposted the video and I took a look at it, I just didn't feel like it was my best work. So I decided to pull the video completely and to be up right now at 2 o'clock in the morning to re-record and give you guys something a little bit with a little bit more love, feeling, and life in it. A little bit more of who Jessica is and what Lipstick Goblin is and what the whole movement stands for. I know that a lot of you have heard my story before on Snapchat, and I know that it's also a great deal of you that have never heard it. Lipstick Goblin actually comes from my story and me standing for something and trying to change the mentality of women. And by doing so, I'm praying that that women will gain some respect for themselves, more love for themselves, and love for one another. And that we start to pour that into our children, and maybe we're a little bit more conscious about our children. And we can start to change cycles that take place with our children and with ourselves. When I was a child, I was molested in first grade. Super crazy situation. That whole situation took the life out of me. For quite some time, I was in a very dark place of trying to figure out, it was like being in a dark room, feeling around, trying to figure out how to make life work, how to not hurt yourself. How am I supposed to function like this? I went from feeling like I was supposed to be gay because a girl had molested me. I came from feeling like, oh my gosh, this girl touched me. I gotta be gay. I have to like women. And at that young age, I honestly didn't know the difference. I didn't know what gay was. But I just knew, man, I gotta be with a girl now. That's just what's gotta happen. But I'm not attracted to them, so how does this work? So I remember literally trying to mask what was going on by now trying to force myself onto liking boys. And at that age, I really wasn't interested in boys, but I was trying to figure out, like, how does this work? Super weird. And looking back at that and remembering going through that process, it's mind-blowing. And how crazy are these cards that I was dealt? About almost 4 years ago, I was raped. So not only was I molested as a child, but then I'm turned around and actually I was molested on several occasions as a child. But now I'm raped 4 years ago. And that was the thing that triggered it all. I thought I had gotten over all of my issues, and it's crazy because it literally took me I think it took me over a year to finally start to show symptoms of being raped. That first year I was normal, and I remember really literally thinking like, man, I must be immune to this stuff. Like, so much crazy stuff has happened to me in my life. I'm literally immune to this stuff. And that year mark, I remember going into I thought I was in a dark place before as a child. I remember going into an even darker place. Like never wanting to get out of my bed. Being so unmotivated. Being hateful and mean and turning my back on everybody who loved me. Just because I felt like I wasn't worthy of that. Walking away from the people that meant the most to me. Could you imagine? Could you imagine that? Loving people, loving somebody so much with everything in you, and you feeling like they're your world, to you feeling like you don't even deserve that. Going through nights where you would just be in your bathroom rocking back and forth crying, just praying that God would take all of the pain away. And then when the daylight hit, feeling like you had to be normal. Like you had to put on the biggest front ever. Could you imagine dealing with that? Just because you didn't want to appear like you had fallen off your game. But really on the inside, it's like you're in there screaming and clawing, trying to figure out how to get out of this body because you don't want to be here anymore. And I remember my daughters would be the only reason why I felt like I should stay. Because everybody else, I just felt like I had caused him so much pain, I didn't need to be here anymore. And the only reason why I would keep holding on was because of my daughters. And then I remember one night thinking, they'd be better off without me. And that next day I remember waking up thinking, that's not okay. It's going too far. And how ironic, and I don't even think that my husband knows this, but how ironic is it that shortly after this happened, my husband and I were trying to repair ourselves, and he came to me and he was just like, look, I can't take it no more. We ain't getting no divorce, but you got to get some help. You got to go sit down and you got to go talk to somebody. So I decided, well, I didn't decide, because if you know anything about my husband, he is a man of action. So if he says that he thinks you should do something, that means he probably already set it up for you. So I want to say that next day I went in for counseling, and it was presented to me as couples counseling. It was nothing like that. It actually turned into being a beat up on Jessica section, as I want to call it, but it really wasn't that. It was all love. And I remember the counselor sitting there saying, I can't help you guys until I help Jessica. Jessica has a lot she needs to work on or work through. And I remember thinking, all right, I'm gonna agree to this, because I'm really just about to skate through this. I know how to work this lady. I ain't gonna have to tell her nothing. I want to say maybe the second visit, I was telling this lady everything. She knew stuff about me that I ain't never told nobody. And I remember sitting there thinking, like, did I really just share things about me with somebody? Did I really just literally completely open up with somebody and tell them everything that made Jessica who she was, down to the scariest, dirtiest things? But it was so crazy and so amazing how powerful I felt after doing that. It was like I had gained a whole lot of my life back. I had snatched back what belonged to me. That is like a very crazy, powerful feeling. And then on top of that, it made me realize that I had a purpose. And that I had been put through all of these crazy things, and those being molested and being raped, that's not even it. I got a whole lot more to tell y'all about. But how crazy is it to be able to be freed of all of that stuff and to feel like you are now unstoppable and you have a purpose? And my purpose was to share my story with the world. And I'm hoping that it gets that big. And it has nothing to do with me wanting to be famous or being known about anything. But it is about me wanting to bring awareness to child molestation. And for me giving women back the power that belongs to them. No matter what your story is. Maybe your story isn't as crazy as mine. Or maybe your story is 30 billion times crazier than mine. No matter what your story is, just know that you can pull through it. And it's going to take you to some crazy dark places. Some places that you don't want to go into. Where you feel completely alone. But those are the times where you have to sit down, be quiet, and be still. And you have to figure out who you are. And you got to figure out what you stand for. And what you want out of life. And most of all, you got to want more. Don't ever allow anything to drag you down so low to where you feel you don't deserve to be here. Because we all have a purpose. That thing in us that just drives us crazy, that drives us wild, that we can't go to sleep without thinking about, and the first thing we wake up, we thinking about that. That thing that just gets you going. That's what you're here for. You got to figure out how to make it work. So like I said, I just feel like I needed to share with you guys my story so you guys can understand what Lipstick Goblin is for. So with Lipstick Goblin, like I said, a portion of the proceeds from our cosmetic line was going to go towards putting things back into our inner city, the parks, and proper child care and funding schools. I really believe that if we can spend proper time with the youth and we have better child care for them, And we're not just sending them to our neighbor's house that we don't really know, or their uncle's house or their cousin's house, and we don't know what's going on there. I want to be able to fix that in a way, as much as I can, by putting proper child care systems in place and being able to educate our children and make it fun in a safe environment. That is my biggest dream. If I never ever get to ride around in a Ferrari or a Bugatti, as long as I know that children are in a safe location when they're out of school or when their parents are at work, I'm gonna be one happy person in my casket, looking down at myself, or however that whole thing works. But I definitely feel fulfilled. So I hope that you guys continue to move with us in this movement. And I really hope that by me sharing my story, and I will have a whole lot more stories that I'll be releasing to you guys, I hope that by me doing this, I encourage you all to share yours, so that the younger ones that watch these videos can learn from them. They'll learn to speak up if things are going on with them, or they'll learn how to handle certain situations. It's time to break these cycles. It's time for us to stop painting this picture like everything is perfect and start spitting real. The point of this is to give women back their power, to know that they aren't alone in the things that they go through on a daily basis. We all have issues. We all go through things. Literally every day, I feel like I wouldn't be living if it wasn't just something there to go wrong. No matter how big nor how small. And things that have happened to us as children and that we have never let out. Let those things out so you can figure out how to soar. I want to make it cool to speak up. Talk about the things that you go through, so that now others can learn from it. And it also gives you a sense of relief to be able to get those things out there and get love from the other women around you. So this page will be full of love. I want that. I literally, I think about that all the time. This page has to be filled with love. No negative comments, period. It won't be tolerated. I'll be deleting them. So ladies, I'm excited about doing this, and I really, really believe that this will change lives. It will literally change lives in countless ways. So let's make this great. And thank you all for tuning in, and thank you all for bearing with us as we figure this whole thing out. And like I said, just know that these videos are made with love. None of them are scripted. They're all from the heart. Once again, thank you all for tuning in.